Okay, good morning, party people. Today is Saturday, October 21st. I got to sleep in. Okay, so today we've got a big book. I have been reading this today. It's just been so freaking weepy. I mean, it's just breaking my heart. So hopefully I can get across what I feel like God's showing me because it's super great. Okay, so yesterday we were in the Old Testament. We were covering Chronicles yesterday. Today we are in the prophetic books. So for those of you reading along with my daily reading, today we read Isaiah 5:6, Zephaniah 3. Zephaniah is amazing, you guys. I'm covering Isaiah right now, but if you have not ever read Zephaniah, check it out and get a study Bible. And then we've got Revelations 21:22. So we finished out Revelations today. So we're going to start all over. Psalm 133 to 136 and Proverbs 19. Okay, so I was thinking today, people that might be following along in the way I read the Bible, if once you get in the habit of doing it the way I'm doing it, you really see the reasoning, in my opinion, for reading a little bit of Revelations every day, Psalms and Proverbs. They not only is Revelations the only book in the Bible that at the very beginning says, if you hear this, that you're going to be blessed for hearing it. So I actually read Revelations out loud so that my spirit is actually hearing it as I'm reading it, and I read it every day. Don't worry about not understanding things. I've told you this before. When you start reading the Bible, there's a whole bunch of stuff you're not going to get. There's a whole bunch of stuff I don't get. No matter how much long you study the Bible, you're not going to get it all. So don't worry about that. Just be faithful in spending the time with God and reading His Word, because it's just going to blow your mind what happens. And then, like I said before, Psalms really hits your spirit. It's kind of a spirit check. It's just kind of goes with your emotions. And Proverbs is great because it's about living. It's about processing daily decisions, and it's just a completely different vibe. So check them out. I would encourage you, even if my style of reading the Bible is not your style. Like I said, I've done another video on this. I didn't used to do my readings this way. This is how I do them now. I used to stick with one book and just read one book all the way through and read all the notes below and then go on to the next book. Whatever your style is, just get into the Word of God. It's super important. And you're meeting God. You're having intimacy with the King of the world, with God Himself. And it'll just be such a blessing in your life. So anyways, okay, so here we are in Isaiah. So we're Isaiah 5:6 today. So I want to go through a little bit of, I'm just going to touch on this because of time. I'm going to touch on 5. I'm actually going to do a separate video on 6 because 6 is powerful. It's a vision of God. So here we are in chapter 5, and this is a beautiful, crazily intense section. So in chapter 5, you see Isaiah speaking to God, and it's absolutely beautiful. So he says to him at the right of the beginning, "Now let me sing to my well-beloved a song of my beloved regarding his vineyard." So this is Isaiah calling God well-beloved, and a song of my beloved, so a song of God, and his regarding his vineyard. So this is the nation of Israel. So it says, my well-beloved has a vineyard. So this is the song he's singing, on a very fruitful hill. He dug it up and cleared out its stones and planted it with the choicest vine. He built a tower in its midst, and he also made a winepress in it. So he expected it to bring forth good grapes, but it brought forth wild grapes. Now, in other places in the Bible, the wildness represents the Gentiles, and it could represent that here to a little bit. I don't think so really, but there's always that. If you dig into this deeper, there could be some kind of that kind of meaning here. But what the study Bible says that this represents is spoiled. Everything is I can't remember the word they use it, but it's just that it's rotten. So it's brought forth rotten grapes. So now it says in verse 3, "And now, O inhabitants of Jerusalem and men of Judah, judge please between me and my vineyard." So this is continuing the song, and this is a judgment between God and his vineyard. "What more could I have done to my vineyard that I have not done in it?" Question, okay? I'm always saying watch the questions. "Why then, when I expected it to bring forth good grapes, did it bring forth wild grapes?" Stinking things, that's what it means. It means stinking things. "And now, please, let me tell you what I will do to my vineyard. I will take away its hedge, and it shall be burned, and break down its wall, and it shall be trampled down. I will lay it waste. It shall not be pruned or dug, but there shall come up briars and thorns. I will also command the clouds that they rain no rain on it. So he's taking away his protection, because that's the hedge and the wall, and it's going to be burned and trampled down. It's going to be laid waste, and this is it will not be pruned or dug. And he controls the weather. So all of these things are judgments from God. Then it says in verse 7, for the vineyard of the Lord of hosts is, so now he's describing what is the vineyard. For the vineyard of the Lord of hosts is the house of Israel, and the men of Judah are his pleasant plant. So that's the southern kingdom. He looked for justice, but behold, oppression. For righteousness, but behold, a cry for help. So both of those words in the Hebrew, look for justice and oppression, they sound similar, but they're opposite. Righteousness and a cry for help, same thing there. So it's a play on words. But again, you see this throughout all the Bible, right? You see the people in power coming into power, turning away from God and oppressing the people. And then it says, so here's the judgments. Verse 8, woe to those who join house to house. They add field to field till there is no place where they may dwell alone in the midst of the land. So that's where people are, remember, God divided up the land among the 12 tribes, right? And it was never supposed to be sold permanently. There was a way that God wanted the land to be overseen, and these people had perverted that. They had changed the way it was supposed to be done, and people were being oppressed because of it. So in my hearing, the Lord of hosts said, truly, many houses shall be desolate, great and beautiful ones, without inhabitant. For 10 acres of vineyard shall yield 1 bath, and a homer of seed shall yield 1 ephah. So here he's describing that the destruction is going to come to these beautiful houses that they put all their trust in, that they've stolen from, they've done things wrong. But God is controlling the weather. So the army coming in from Assyria is going to or Babylon, ultimately for the southern kingdom, is going to destroy their houses, but God's going to control and destroy their ability to be fruitful in the land. And then it says in verse 11, woe to those who rise early in the morning that they may follow intoxicating drink, who continue until night till wine inflames them, the harp and the strings, the tambourine and flutes, and the wine are in their feast. But they do not regard the work of the Lord or consider the operation of his hand. So here, what he's going into is the drink and wine is supposed to be used in a holy way, right? So they're utilizing everything perverted, of course. Same thing with the music. The musical instruments, like you saw in King David, all of these things were created to worship and glorify God. And here they're utilizing them pervertedly for their own parties. And then it says in 13, therefore my people have gone into captivity. So he's calling those things that are not as though they were. So it's coming forward, right? It's going to be happening. Because they have no knowledge, their honorable men are famished, and their multitude dried up with thirst. So even though they're partying and drinking, they're thirsty. They're not drinking from God, right? They're not drinking from the well of God. They're drinking wine inappropriately, and their honorable men that should be leading honorably are famished. They're not full of God. They're not full of the wisdom of God. They're not feeding on God, right? They're feeding on revelry. Oh my God, I'm going to have to do 2 just on this chapter. Therefore, then we're in verse 14, therefore Sheol, or the grave, has enlarged itself and opened its mouth beyond measure. And then it goes on to describe how the grave is going to eat them. Then it goes on to describe when they are destroyed. Then but the Lord of hosts shall be exalted in judgment, and God who is holy shall be hallowed in righteousness. Then the lambs shall feed in their pasture, and in the waste places of the fat ones strangers shall eat. So that's describing God protecting the babies, but at the same time, those who are prepared for slaughter, the fat ones, the strangers will eat. Then it goes on in verse 18. Then in verse 18, the people are mocking God. So you see here, woe to those who draw iniquity with cords of vanity and sin as if with a cart rope. So they're just like doing everything they can to get a hold of sin and iniquity. They're using cords to draw it in and ropes and carts to draw them in. They're saying to God, that say, let him make speed and hasten his work that we may see it. And let the counsel of the Holy One of Israel draw near and come, that we may know it. So they're mocking God. And then this is just what breaks my heart. 20, woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Woe to those who are wise in their own eyes and prudent in their own sight. So they're saying in verse 21, I've got to go. I'm going to do a second video because there's so much. All right, so hold on. This is number 1. Love you. Jesus is coming.